Hi everyone, this is Dan, and this is New Mutants Classic trade paperback. I did a video on this in particular, focusing on the graphic novel, the New Mutants Marvel graphic novel number 4. But this episode, or this video, is about the New Mutants issue number 4. In this case, Who's Scaring Stevie? This is a really cool issue in a number of ways because it tackles a lot of like really interesting, almost like adult level themes for what the New Mutants comic was about, which was just about the X babies as people like to call them. But yeah, this character Stevie Hunter was introduced. She's kind of like a dance instructor and good friend to Kitty Pryde and Storm throughout the X-Men's 80s run. I don't know. I think Chris Claremont created her, but anyhow, so there's someone stalking her and giving her some nasty phone calls. And Sean, who's part of the New Mutants, she's asking, "Hey, can we help you find this person because this isn't right? Someone shouldn't be stalking you or calling you all the time." And meanwhile, she's kind of like, I don't want to talk about it. Don't worry about it. I'll handle it myself." We get an introduction to this character, which will be important later. So we go back to the New Mutants, and they're having fun. Danny Moonstar's throwing a frisbee, and Ron's playing catch, using her transitional form to play around. And Chris Claremont was kind of known for doing this, that when you had very intense issues, so in this case, like the previous issue was sort of the final resolution of the first Brood Saga. And so now the New Mutants are busy playing, and he always did that a lot with a lot of the characters. He had Sam Guthrie kind of playing around, making an idiot of himself. And, Professor X calls him up. And here they have kind of a get-together. So the original purpose of the New Mutants was to replace the X-Men at that time. And, spoiler alert, at the time that Professor X had made the New Mutants, he was under the influence of the Brood. So now he has kind of a face-to-face with them to talk about it. And to him, he levels with him, and he's like, "Hey, I was under the influence of the Brood, and the only reason why they created this team was because they were going to use you guys as basically breeders, right, for themselves. But I recognize that you're a really good team, and I want to keep teaching you. If you want to join me, you can stay. If you want to leave, you can go." And Danny, being the rebellious talkative one, is the first one to kind of say, "Hey, we're here for better or worse. We're gonna stay with you and see what happens." And Sean opens up about the problem that Stevie Hunter's having with her stalker, and then you get a little bit of fun back and forth between Danny and Professor X. This is kind of why I like Danny. She's a more interesting character than a lot of the other New Mutants. Some of them are kind of stereotypes, but though Chris eventually develops all of them to be very deep characters. I like how Danny, right out of the bat, she has a personality and an attitude to her. So then we get some back and forth between Lalandra and Xavier and them. I always found this so interesting. She's like a bird lady, right? That's how their species is. I just thought like Professor X is banging a bird. Anyhow, so the New Mutants kind of have their sort of Stranger Things before Stranger Things moment where they all gang up to go find this stalker of Stevie's, and they use a phone trace and trace him down to a telephone. Ron has a funny moment. She realizes most of these telephone booths are probably pissed on by drunk people. So they go out and they track him over to a high school, and the high school is a high school dance. They have some funny. This is kind of like Archer comic-esque in a way. Chris Claremont makes a lot of pop culture references. It's kind of, or Chris Claremont was known for making like references for whatever is like really popular at the time. So he made a lot of, like, in his 1980s X-Men, there was a lot of comments about whatever was current popular television or Star Wars, that kind of stuff. Very different though from like pop culture references of like, say, Mark Waid or some of the other more modern like Josh Whedon and whatnot. His was more of like a matter of the fact that these kids are living in the same timeline as us while we're reading this comic, right? Or if you were a kid in the 80s. That was kind of the deal. Anyhow, Ron sniffs out the bad guy. Turns out to be the redhead from the very first couple pages of this issue, who's been stalking her. And there's kind of chaos breaks out among it when Ron jumps in as a wolf and scares the crap out of everybody. So the New Mutants chase after him. He gets into a Corvette, which is pretty freaking sweet. And the New Mutants kind of have to. So here Sam has to save a mom and a child because the kid whose name is Peter is gonna run him over because he doesn't care. He's just trying to escape. And one of his big problems is he has a hard time turning when he's using his cannonball powers. So all this time, like, he's gonna hit a building if he doesn't turn with this lady. And Professor X kind of talks him through some ways of overcoming his issues, right? Really fun. Like, yeah, this is like so typical of the time. So much is packed into one issue. Even though this is like a cool down issue for the New Mutants, and the X-Men had issues like this too. Where it's just a standalone story and you just kind of enjoy it till the next kind of arc gets run up. The whole thing is just action packed and it's very well contained and complete. So Kid crashes his car and the New Mutants chase him into this factory. Meanwhile, so it's Sunspot stays behind to keep an eye on Stevie because she busted her knee. Ron, Danny, and Sean go into the factory to kind of chase after the guy. Meanwhile, Sunspot's saving the day, tossing the car before it explodes. And during this, Ron catches up and finally catches him, and he's beating the crap out of Ron because she had turned into a human after getting smacked while a dog. And Sean possesses him to stop him. They run out and escape. The whole point being is that they escape and they get to interrogating him as far as why this happened. And this gets really fascinating. So Danny uses her power to bring out his fear. And he has a crush on the teacher. And it's kind of driven by the fact that his parents abused the living shit out of him. Very interesting. I think what Chris Claremont really wanted to do with this issue is he really wanted to talk more about so those who don't know, Chris Claremont, even though I like his writing and I definitely, he is my favorite writer of the X-Men, he is from New York and he is fairly liberal. there's no denying that. And I think what he really wanted to do in this story was highlight both child abuse and interracial kind of aspects, especially at the time that this was going on, which was the 80s, right? And then you see like his back gets ripped and you see that he's been abused his whole time. Very interesting. Like, you get a story that felt like it was, at some point in time like an Archie comic, and then it turns kind of dark like this, where we're talking about teacher-student love, interracial love, freaking getting kids getting abused by their parents and stuff like that. Yeah, you didn't think like you'd see this in a 1980s comic, did you? Anyhow, he finally admits to the whole problem, and you get a resolution. He gets sent over. The cops pick him up, and they got some people that are probably going to go talk to his parents and whatnot. And Xavier says he's going to go and try and help the kid out. Meanwhile, the last panel is him just ripping the New Mutants. Like, yeah, by the way, this whole rescue operation, or this thing that you just tried, it freaking sucked. Do a report on why you guys, or where you guys could do better, and give it to me in the morning. Ever the teacher, right? So yeah, that ends issue 4. I wanted to highlight that issue because issues like this, where they were just self-contained stories, were everywhere in the 80s. And it's really good with the New Mutants because in the format of comic books, like they come out monthly or every other month, you don't necessarily have enough time to go in and make these grandiose plots. So you have to come up with these interesting stories that will fill 20 pages really easily. And Claremont was like the master of this. So many times you just give him one issue and he could freaking do it. But anyhow, that's enough about this one. Let me know if you like this video. I really like the New Mutants, and I want to do more New Mutants videos. I just thought I would do a one-shot to kind of give a glimpse into the old New Mutants pre-Demon Bear Saga. If you like the video, hit the thumbs up. Subscribe if you haven't subscribed. Hit the bell for notifications. If you have a comment about this issue or the New Mutants, leave them down below. And I will see you next time.